Good afternoon, everybody. It is August 28th, 2024 for a regular city commission meeting. Let's start with the roll call, please.
Mayor Skidmore,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen,
Present.
Commissioner Kaler,
Present.
Commissioner Clayton,
Present.
and Commissioner Crowley.
Present.
Great. We're all here and accounted for. We do have a few people here in the gallery, so thank you for coming, as well as watching on some form of social media. So we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Pastor Darren Story of Westminster Presbyterian Church.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Good afternoon. Let us pray. Gracious Lord, we meet here today to conduct matters of business. We ask that you guide our hearts and minds in the spirit of fairness, right through every thought and every speech that we give. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. May everything we think, say, or do be pleasing to you and be considered an act of worship as we work together for our people and our community. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I had the opportunity to visit with Darren here before our meeting, and I just want to tell everybody that what a great pastor he is. I enjoyed visiting with him. He's a great guy. You should meet with him sometime just to hear his story. No pun intended there, of course. But I just appreciate all the pastors in town. We have some wonderful pastors, God-loving, God-fearing pastors that are willing to come here and pray for our meetings, and we really do appreciate it every time. So thank you, Darren. We'll bring you back, I'm sure. Keep it up. Good work. We'll go to public comments. Do we have any today?
We have none registered.
And rest okay. We'll skip item 7. We'll go on to consent agenda with the minutes from the August 21st, 2024 City Commission meeting. We have approval.
So moved.
And second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move on to item 9. This time I'd like to give the commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication they've had that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. Hearing none, we'll go on to skipping 10. We're really moving along here. So we got item, looks like 11.
Item A, public hearing for amended TIF project plan for Premier Auto.
This public hearing has been called to consider the amendment to the TIF project plan for Premier Auto within the South 59 TIF district. The commission is requested to open the hearing and continue it to a subsequent meeting when the TIF ordinance meeting the project plan and approving the development agreement is ready for consideration. So I will open the meeting, and we have Tyler Ellsworth from Utah here to talk to us. So welcome, Tyler.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. So, yes, as you mentioned, Mayor, the recommendation today is to open the public hearing, take any comments from the public who happen to be here and want to speak to this item, but then it's staff's recommendation that you continue, not close, but continue this public hearing to your September 11th commission meeting. At the time of the agenda deadline, and as we were working with staff to put these proceedings together for the meeting today, we didn't have final agreement on the terms of an updated development agreement with the dealership team. I'm happy to announce, just as of this afternoon, I shared with staff, and I'll share with you, that we do have agreement on the terms of that updated development agreement. There's one more piece that's really more of an administrative piece that we do need to get together and sort of wrap up between now and the meeting on the 11th, but I'm confident that we can do so. But yeah, it's staff's recommendation that you take any comments and continue this to your meeting on the 11th. I don't know that I will go through all the background here. I know that we covered some of this, maybe much of this, on your August 7th commission meeting. So happy to answer any questions, but that's the status of things.
Okay. Anybody have any questions of Tyler on this? I guess not. So
Right.
we'll just plan to see you on September 11th,
All right.
and we'll skip over B and C on here. Is there anything else you need to add, or we're good?
The only item that I would add is that on one of the items, I think it's maybe item C, is the resolution of intent for the phase 2 IRBs. And the developer plans to use an affiliate entity for the phase 2 dealership. And that's the sort of administrative piece that we need to wrap up between now and September 11th. that's common. It's not something that's unusual, but our documents don't contemplate that right now. And so between now and your second meeting from now, we can get that worked out.
Fantastic. Okay.
All right.
Council have anything to add to that? We're good? Okay, we will leave the hearing open and we will see you on the September 11th then.
Very good.
Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate
you
you
all.
coming.
All right.
We'll move on to item D, which we have the Franklin County Development Council. I understand Director Bean is not present with us today, so let's go on to the Ottawa Library Executive Director, Terry Chartier. Terry.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Just have a few updates for you guys on information that I'd previously shared. And one of them is the walking tacos that our Ottawa Library Teen Council did. They were able to raise $200 for teen programming. And we had a great group of teens there who set up, served, collected money, gave change, cleaned up, and learned a lot about being an entrepreneur and business skills. So we were happy to have them learn those skills while earning some money. We had our Skunk Run book sale this last Saturday and for the Friends of the Ottawa Library, and we raised $1,449.31. So we were very happy with that. We were able to sell about 3/4 of our inventory.
Awesome.
And then today we celebrated Pam Miller's retirement. She has worked for the library for 33 plus years. She has been our technical services coordinator and our cataloger for all of our children and teens materials. So she had a master's in library science, and we are going to miss her in that role, but we have made some transitions, and Cindy Brewer will be taking over those responsibilities. And that's all I have, unless you guys have any questions for me.
I'm just glad that Pam and Chris Gary, they're both staying in our community. They're not going anywhere, and so they'll
Yes.
retire here in style in Ottawa, Kansas. We're glad to hear that. But congratulations to Pam on a well-served 33 years. I think that's pretty amazing. So
Yeah.
pass on our congratulations collectively from City Hall to her on that.
I will do
I know
that.
she worked until, 12 today? She didn't work a full day today, did she?
Yeah, we actually kept her here till 1 with a luncheon, so
Oh,
she did a little bit of extra time for us.
Extra overtime. Good for
Yeah.
her. Well, good. You might bring up too the volunteers I think you had with the book sale too. That was
We
great.
did. We had some great volunteers. Let me look at my list so I don't leave anybody out. Of course, we had library staff. We had a book sale committee. Ottawa University students. Last Friday was actually their day to volunteer in the community. So we had several of them come over to the Friends building and help us unbox all of the books that we had, put them in flats so that the spine was up. So when people shop, they could read the spine instead of having to dig through boxes of books. We also had Friends of Ottawa Library board member. We had our library board members that worked, spouses, siblings, and we had a high school exchange student that came and volunteered.
Good job. Anybody have questions of Terry? Good report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate that very much. Ottawa Main Street. There's here.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We have been busy with the common consumption. That is, I feel like, what I am talking about to everybody right now. So far, everybody's excited about it. For July, we had our third Thursdays, of course, but then our biggest thing was our community visit that I've kind of mentioned with you guys before, and wrapping up our memberships. Our memberships are about the same number as last year, but because we raised our dues, we have more coming in.
Questions of Sarah? Any activities you want to tell us about coming up?
September 7th is our grand opening of the common consumption area, Brews, Beats, and Boutiques. And we have some live music downtown, vendors set up. And I currently I only have 14,000 cups in my office right now, because one box was picked up. But for everybody every liquor license that is participating in the CCA is getting 1,000 cups to start out and 1,000 stickers, being how that's one of the regulations that they have to abide by. So I currently have a lot of stickers and a lot of cups in my office.
What questions anybody have, Sarah?
Thank you.
Good job. And then we have Vanessa, Prairie Paws.
Hello, Mayor and Commissioners. Thanks for having me. I have 3 big updates. So we launched our Emporia location on August the 4th. That was our first day there. We cleaned the facility out. We have filled the dumpster, I think, 11 times at that location. So we've done a lot of reorganizing and a lot of cool stuff out there. So that's been really good. It's a team of just 4 people and they're working their behinds off out there. So that's great. And then the next big thing we're working on is our gala, which is September 13th, Friday the 13th. It's kind of the theme is turning bad luck into good luck. So we're leaning into that. So we hope that everyone can come. Tickets are $40 a head. It includes dinner, silent auction, live auction, the typical gala festivities. So there's only, I think, a week, maybe 10 days left to purchase tickets. So get in on that. And then we're also, the week that you're doing the citywide garage sale, we're going to have yard sale stuff going on out at Prairie Paws as well. So kind of pet supplies, gently used stuff that we don't need anymore is all going to be available for a deal out at Prairie Paws. So September 6th and 7th, we're doing that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
May I have any questions of Vanessa? I did have a couple myself. I know that there was a page here that talked about 95% of the unincorporated areas are seem to be having some dogs let loose. So tell me how that works. Are you thinking people from other counties are bringing them just into Franklin County, knowing that we have a no-kill shelter, or that we'll take them in? What? And how can we prevent that? I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, we've punished ourselves with a good reputation, sadly. So there's some projections you can do that can project how many unwanted animals you should see come through a facility. And our facility sees 3 times the volume than the population that live in Franklin County could be generating. And then we're neighbored by counties that don't have animal shelters. And so those citizens don't have access to appropriate services. And it's not a service that a government has to provide. You have chosen to provide this service to the citizens. And so is Franklin County. So we are punished by being a good place.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I guess there's no way to ever find out the owners. They don't have chips on them, and we test that. We don't know any way to get back to them, get them returned, or.
Yeah, you really can't prove it. We've got cameras out there, and we know that these tags are not Franklin County tags on the cars. But is it worth prosecuting when that is further burden on our Franklin County court system to prosecute these cases? And sometimes those animals are then held for extended times to await the outcome of a criminal proceeding, and that further punishes us. So we're kind of stuck. I would like to see the counties around us maybe increase their funding and increase the services to their citizens, which would hopefully then level out the burden across more communities. But yeah, it's a long time struggle that we've been facing.
That's what I wanted, but surrounding counties, I guess we don't know for sure where the dog came from. I guess if it's a mile inside the county line, we can assume.
Yeah, and also if you analyze reclaim rate, so if you have a really well-serviced area, you see about 50% of your stray dogs be reclaimed, and it's within the first 48 hours. Our location sees, usually less than 20% of the stray dogs being reclaimed, so they're abandoned. They're intentionally turned loose, just on a statistical perspective. So yeah, it's a real struggle. So we're trying to fill those service gaps. I would love to see Anderson County have a facility, and I don't care if it's Prairie Paws, but they should have a facility to serve those citizens. It's otherwise we're just going to get more animals.
Yeah, I see they do contribute some, it looks like, to our budget, but maybe it's not enough to compensate for what we think are coming across that border.
Yeah, and if you run those reverse projections of, okay, say there's 50,000 people that live in a service area and there's no facility, where are those animals going?
Yeah.
So even though we can't prove where they're coming from, we can prove that you're generating some, and you can't tell me where they're going.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to us. If our volume is high and you have none,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tells you right there. You're right.
it's really frustrating.
Well, it's a hard thing to deal with, but you seem like you're handling it in a very pragmatic way, so I appreciate that. I did see where Manhattan's made some significant donations here coming in, so tell us about that. How's the Manhattan project, or Manhattan? I shouldn't do that. How's the Manhattan facility working out for you?
Doing really well. This last month was the first time that they think they exceeded $8,000 in adoption revenue. They did just a really high volume month for adoptions, and that's really what we knew that facility could achieve. And so they're really rocking and rolling with our policies and procedures now. And so they're moving at high volume, low cost, high revenue. It's nice. It's happening the way we predicted.
Yeah.
Still very satisfying that it worked out.
A good merger, I would say that. So you're on track with that. Acquisitions and mergers, you did good on that one.
Yeah.
Great. Anybody have any more questions of Vanessa? Moving right along here.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Good job. And we'll move on to item E, I guess.
Good evening.
Ordinance amending Municipal Code, Section 12-317 to update parking regulations on 11th Street.
This ordinance proposes amendments to the municipal code to update parking regulations on 11th Street. Director Neese.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Sorry, I got eager. I love to come before you with parking.
Yeah.
This is a recommendation to change parking on 11th Street south of the university to allow angled parking, which is shown here. This also includes proposed additional parking or changes their parking there. It's a whole project that they're doing, and a piece of it is this angled parking. So it is 11th Street between Cedar Street and College Street, and the objective obviously is to address the university's parking needs. The key change is adding angled parking, authorizing angled parking, and we don't anticipate adverse effects. It has been reviewed and discussed in DRC, and I've and also had an additional conversation with the chief on it.
I want to make sure too that we're cutting the curb out. We're going into the terrace there, I guess I would call it. It's not going to be angled parking just right off the street, right?
Yeah, that's and that's what.
So the street won't be any less wide.
What is shown
because
here,
of-
yeah.
Okay, all right.
There's no financial considerations beyond the cost of publishing, and this is kind of a change in how we're reporting this. We would, in the past, have just said no cost, but in fact, there is a cost of publishing the ordinance. And that's not a new cost to these, but wanting to reflect that. And the ordinance has been approved by the city attorney, and it takes effect upon publication. So the recommendation is that you consider approving this. It's amending section 123314 of the municipal code to approve the ordinance amending section 12314 of the municipal code, authorizing angled parking on the north side of 11th Street between Cedar Street and College Street. Or of course, you could refer it to a future meeting. I'd stand for any questions.
And just one more, is there any need to contact the neighbors or have them in contact or any response to the neighbors on this? Any objection?
I don't believe we've done that.
I don't know if it was necessary or not in something like this, but I would think it'd be certainly no concern because it doesn't affect their side of the street and it's not going to be any less wide than it was before. But
I would assume that if we give them more off-street parking, that they would be extremely happy about that. Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve item 11E. Sorry, Sarah.
No, I just had a question before.
Sure,
But we
sure.
can discuss it. It's all right. Go ahead and make your motion. We'll get it on discussion.
all right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any other discussion now?
So my question is that it appear, and I could be completely wrong on this, but one of these existing parking lots is concrete, and one of them, I believe, unless it's been recently redone, it's still gravel. Are we looking at they're going to add gravel parking spots or they're going to add concrete parking spots?
My expectation, and now, I'll be honest, the big discussion of this project happened actually while I was on vacation. So I don't want to get too far over my skis. My expectation is that it would be concrete. This is a pretty large project that is being contemplated, and that they're working very hard on, I believe.
I mean, I have reservation that I have reservation if it is gravel. Just because I think that, yes, I think probably the neighbors would like it to be concrete. I think it needs to look the same, the continuity, if at all possible.
And Chief just informed me that in fact it will be concrete, which would have been my expectation, but Chief said it with a lot of certainty. So
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this?
Do we know is the total, this, it looks like 12, I think, parking spots, the total, is this kind of a final of the expected plat, or are we maybe looking at that later and this is just getting something so they can kind of get a true design build plan?
I would not expect their parking lot to come before you. So this is just wanting to show sort of what is being proposed. I think that would be something that we would approve administratively.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Now let's take a roll call vote, please.
How do you vote, Mayor Pro Tem Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Clayton?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
And Mayor Skidmore?
And I vote yes to that motion carries. So,
Thank you.
Dr. Neese. We will move on to item F.
Public hearing for the purpose of hearing and considering objections of taxpayers related to the proposed use of funds for 2024 budget amendments.
The Finance Department reviews all budgeted funds to determine if the budget amendment is advisable. Kansas statute allows a municipality to amend budgeted item funds in order to legally expend dollars not included in the original budget. Funds identified for amendment in 2024 are the Water Utility Fund, Library Fund, Special Parks Fund, and Proximity Park Special Sales Tax Fund, and the Golf Course Fund. I'll open the meeting, and we'll hear from Director Landis.
Thank you. So because this is the public hearing and there is a subsequent item for approval of the 24 amendments, I'll just give you the brief overview. There's really no new information from what we have reviewed before, but I think it's important that we just do a brief overview for those that might be listening outside the room. So you've opened the public hearing, and that public hearing notice was published in the Ottawa Herald on August 14th, which is important. It does require a 10-day minimum notice to the public to hold a public hearing for budget amendments or original budget adoption. Budget authority is a self-imposed spending limit on each of your operating funds. In this case, it would have been approved last year in 2023. And it does require that when amending the budget, you go through the same process that you do for adopting the original budget. So at any one time, you may not exceed your budget authority. You would have to need to amend if you thought you were going to exceed your budget authority, and then also acknowledge that it doesn't change any of the mill levies that were set for that original budget. There were 5 funds that were being presented to you, and the timeline is here with us, with the public hearing being the last item, with the exception of the adoption, which is your next item. Just a brief overview of each of the funds and the purpose for the amendment. So the Water Utility Fund was experiencing a lower fund balance. And so when putting together the 2024 budget, we wanted to see where 23 was going to land as for ending fund balance. We knew that with the compensation study and the impact of that at the time, we didn't know what the impact would be for the Water Utility Fund. And then in addition to, we needed to move up one of the water main replacement projects for 17th to 19th. And so with all of those things taken into consideration and an adequate fund balance to do so, we're recommending that we increase that expenditure authority for that fund. The library fund is one that is more of a pass-through fund for all of the ad valorem taxes that are received, but it also receives motor vehicle taxes and delinquent property taxes. Those are the dollar amounts that we don't know when we adopt a budget. Those are all based on estimates that are provided to us from the county. And so typically we do see that we receive more, collect more than we've budgeted for, and we've typically always needed to do a budget amendment for that. We have not found a secret. way to get around having to do that budget amendment other than to overinflate our numbers in the previous budget year, and that's also difficult to be able to explain when adopting a budget. So for this case, we've just proposed an increase to the expenditure authority so that if or when those dollars do come in, and our final distribution doesn't come in until December anyway, we would at least have the budget authority to turn around and pay those back out to the library. And again, that's a mill rate, a mill levy supported fund, so it does not change the mill rate for that fund either. Oops. The Special Parks Fund is one where we have limited revenue sources that come into that fund, but in the year of 2024, we had an unexpected donation from Power of the Past for the construction of the shelter at Forest Park. And so we had an additional $50,000 receipt and then the expenditures, which were above our spending authority for that fund. In addition to, we also did make a transfer to the golf course fund to offset the debt payment associated with the golf course, and instead used a portion, allocated a portion of the splash pad and expenditures back towards the ARPA funding that was received. And so we had to do a little bit of maneuvering with the way that those couple of items were paid, just simply because the ARPA funding didn't allow debt payments to be made. And so what we had anticipated wasn't quite an option for us to accomplish both of those items. The Proximity Park Special Sales Tax Fund is simply a fund that collects the sales tax associated directly with the Proximity Park. It's a special sales tax. When we did the base grant agreement in 2022, those projects are coming to a close, but we're at the point where we need to start settling up on our match versus the amount of grant money that came in for each of those projects. And so we're anticipating an additional transfer to those projects. In addition to, we did acquire land under that fund for approximately $220,000 that we did not have the budget authority already set in that fund to expend. In fact, we had anticipated that expenditure happening in 23 and had amended the budget for it for 23, but then allowed that expenditure instead in 24. The golf course fund is the last fund to discuss, and this is we did acquire the golf course or began to acquire the golf course in 2022, and during our budget discussions this year in 24 for 25, you all had the discussion about when to begin operating the course and decided that we would begin operating in 2025. And in order to do so without a consistent revenue source coming into that fund right now, we need to make a transfer in, and we acknowledge there will be some expenditures before year end. And so in order to accommodate that, we are anticipating bringing in $100,000 from the Economic Development Fund to support the beginning operations of this fund, and then an additional transfer in 2025 has been budgeted as well, just based on our discussions we'd had before about operations. With that, I'm here to answer questions and that you might have related to any of those funds or the process.
Okay. Do I have any questions on any of these 5 funds we're talking about here? I've got one on the, I think it's on the Proximity Park. I noticed the interest on idle funds went just up from 10,000 to 120,000. Was that because we just suddenly had way more cash available in the idle fund category?
Yes, we had put in a really conservative estimate in our investment income for that fund, but given the fund balance, you can see why there's investment income of a higher amount there, just given the history that we've shown in 2024 for all funds with a higher cash balance.
Good.
Yes.
Good work, and good work, Rebecca. So we know you're watching that closely. That's good. And then on the also the designated stability outlay, that $1 million. Explain that again. What that is for everybody to know. It's also on the Proximity Park sales.
Oh yes. Are you looking at the 2026 projected?
2024 proposed budget has $1 million
2024, okay.
for designated
Okay.
stability.
Yeah, that line item is something that you'll see with commonality through most of our funds now, beginning with our current budgets and moving forward. And really, it is to designate those dollars towards a reserve for that fund. Some of them might be designated, some might be undesignated. But whenever we've discussed each one of the budgeted funds with you, we've tried to point out that those are funds that we don't anticipate spending, but they do give you authority to spend should you need to, and they might reduce the need for an amendment in a year when you need to make a decision that wasn't anticipated the prior year. So really, that's our whole point in making sure that we have the budget authority for that.
Good. Instead of using the word reserve, we use this to give us more latitude to make the decision. I guess I got it.
Yes.
Okay. And then on the golf course, let's see, I know look here. Oh, the debt payment. Then you mentioned it earlier with regard to the economic fund, but tell us about the debt payment. I didn't quite follow. 135,000.
Yeah. So when you entered into an MOU with the anticipated purchase of the golf course, there was the initial payment to the association, and then the debt that was held at the bank for the golf course. It was a loan balance that they had used for improvements to the golf course overall, and all of that was anticipated as part of the original purchase. So we did not make the final payment on that until earlier this year. And yes, so that the management company had continued to make debt payments until that time. Then we made the final payment, and then they've been making a rental payment or a operations payment, management payment to us for lease of the ground since then.
It's all debt free right now, right? That's the key.
Yes.
So, good. And also on the capital improvements, I see the 138. Did you explain that? I might have been a step behind you here. Capital improvements, 138,120 on the golf course.
I'm sorry, are you in the published budget pages?
I'm on
One
page, well,
second.
it's 193, the last page of our packet. It just shows the adopted budget and the proposed budget 2024 total expenditures.
Oh, that, I'm
68
sorry,
to
here, let me,
138.
just one quick second. Let me make sure. Yes, so that includes the amount of money that we had set aside for just the reserve amount for the fund, and then any anticipated expenditures we might have through the end of the year that are needed at the facility in order to open under our operations in January. For example, there's some changes to the facility, to the clubhouse, things like that need to be made prior to or
Okay.
taking control.
It's exciting to see what's going to happen next year with our golf course. I've had a lot of people talk to me about that. They're excited about city owned. They're talking about issues that are out there right now with regard to the grounds. Commissioner Clayton's mentioned it before that we do need sometime next year to talk about either committee or subcommittee or something on that with regard to running it at that point as well. So I think that's some things that we talk about later. And then also Prairie Paws is still leasing the facility through this year, or do we know how long that lease will last? Not Prairie Paws.
The catering.
You're really expanding, aren't you? You're going to take over. No, you don't want that. Prairie Star Catering.
Prairie Star Catering is leasing the kitchen in the clubhouse, and we anticipate that will likely continue. And we've had just preliminary conversations with them, but there's a lot of details yet to be tied up before the end of the year.
Might be a good combination with those stray dogs in a restaurant. I don't know if that would work here, but that might be. Any other questions? Okay, we need to, looks like accept that. So looking at item G, do we have a motion on item G?
Mayor,
Before you do
Oh, I'm
that.
sorry. Oh, I need to close the hearing. That's right. Let me close this. Any other comments or anything you want to say anything else in this hearing? And no one else coming to the microphone, we'll go ahead and close that hearing and move on to item G.
acceptance of the 2024 budget amendments.
Acceptance of the 2024 budget amendments that we've just described and talking about here. So do we have a motion?
So moved.
There it is. We have a second.
I'll second.
There's a second. Any other discussion on these items? Let's have a roll call vote, please.
How do you vote, Commissioner Clayton?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen?
Yes.
And Mayor Skidmore?
I vote yes too. That motion carries. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good job. Comments by city manager or city staff? There he is. Good afternoon, Brian.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and Council. Thank you for letting me attend remotely. Technology's wonderful. Just want to give you a couple of updates on some items. We have the Snow Cone with the Cop this upcoming Saturday, August 31st from noon to 2 p.m. And there will be a city forum hosted by the League of Kansas Municipalities at Ottawa University, and that will be from 1 to 2:30 on issues related to municipalities and municipal importance. And following that 1 to 2:30 session, there'll be a coma training from 1 to 2:30, followed by the city forum from 3 to 5. And if you're interested in attending, please just let Dora or myself know, and we'll get you registered. And again, that's this upcoming Thursday, September 5th. And then want to invite everyone out to the Roland Bolin fundraiser, which is being hosted by the City of Ottawa's very own Accessibility Committee. And that will benefit the Kansas City Spina Bifida Foundation, which serves Ottawa-Franklin County as well. And that will occur on September 27th, so almost a full month from today. And that will be from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then we'd like to point out the upcoming budget calendar for September 4th with the public hearing for the intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate, our public hearing for the adoption of the budget and adoption of the 2025 operating budget, and our CIP program as well. And we have our upcoming tentative agenda items, most of which we've already mentioned, and we'll have a dual ordinance for consideration at 1201 West 15th, which will be a rezoning from a R1 single family to an R3 higher density, as well as actually one item, and then a proclamation for support professionals. So that's kind of the highlights of what we have coming down. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask either myself or some of our teammates who are there today.
Good. Anybody have questions of Brian? Hope all is well there for you and your family. So we'll look forward to seeing you back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet.
Thanks, Commissioners.
Thank you. Move on to city comments by our governing body. Let's start with Commissioner Crowley.
I have no comment.
Commissioner Clayton.
Just wanted to say last night was the inaugural Celebrating Student Success Parade. And unfortunately, it was a little hot, so the high school was unable to participate as well, but it was still a pretty well-attended event, and looking forward to having that in the future to recognize student athletes, both at the college level and the high school level, and their successes in the community. So thank you to everyone who came out for that. And then just last week, I was able to attend the Kansas Housing Conference. And there was a lot of great information there. Some really cool programs coming down from the state with some decent amounts of money available, potentially for some other grant funds and loan funds. And so some good stuff to look forward to for housing for the city.
We look forward, appreciate you going to that, keeping our name and face in front of the state. So that's always good to know too. So thanks, Commissioner Clayton, for doing that. Commissioner Kaler, sorry.
None at this
You
time.
got anything? Okay. Pro Tem Allen?
No comment.
None. And I just want to say too about last night, the Fusion, it was well attended, but it was kind of hot, but then the nice little breeze came up, and maybe too much of a breeze, but it was nice to cool off. But yeah, good response. I also had the chance to speak to the student body at Ottawa University on their orientation. I think it was 330 freshman class coming in this year, so it's always good to see Ottawa University thriving and doing well, and seeing all these young people in there. So that's great. And a lot of them I saw last night too from that event as well. So that was good. I thought it was well attended. Comments, or I guess announcements would be August 29th. We have the Chamber Eggs and Issues at 8 a.m. at tomorrow morning at Advent Health. I believe it's regarding water, so it should be interesting. If you haven't got your tickets, I don't know, maybe too late, but should be an interesting time to hear about our water resource here in our state. August 31st, snow cones with the cops, as we saw up there on the board. So it starts at 12 noon to 2 p.m. on Legacy Square. So Adam, we'll see you there. And then on September 4th, we got a City Commission meeting, of course, at 7 p.m. And I think that must be everything we've got covered here today. So if there's nothing else to come before our City Commission